The reality is there are many things we can't understand. We are created beings, and our minds are very limited in capacity. How could we ever fully comprehend the ways and purposes of our Creator? The sovereignty of God has been an issue of great confusion for many centuries in the church. In fact, this issue has divided entire denominations from each other. Around the world, Christians have been split into two camps. One proclaims God is sovereign over everything. The other responds, man is responsible for his actions. Which position is true? Is God sovereign over everything, or is man ultimately responsible for his own actions? Biblically, this question is very easy to answer. Both positions are true. The Bible teaches both the sovereignty of God and the genuine responsibility of man. However, this seems to be a contradiction. If God is sovereign, then that violates the freedom of man to make his own choices. And if man is responsible for his actions, then God is not sovereign over everything. Logically, it can't be both. Yet, in the Bible, both are true. This is one of the great mysteries of Scripture. God does not ask us to figure out how this is possible. He simply tells us repeatedly and without explanation that both are true. And He expects us to believe and to act on that knowledge whether or not we can reconcile it. And when we do that, when we simply believe what God says in His Word, we receive extraordinary treasure. We live in the profound benefits of both positions. Because God is sovereign, we can trust Him and rest in Him, knowing that He is in control and He will fulfill His purposes for His glory and for our good. And because man is genuinely responsible, we are delivered from fatalism and passivity, and we will run with endurance and joy the race that's set before us. And will work hard to take the gospel to the nations, knowing that everyone who believes will be saved. Man's limited understanding can't possibly reconcile both positions. Yet, both are taught repeatedly in the Scripture and often side by side. Paul says in Philippians, "Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who works in you both to will and to work for His good pleasure." Wow. Paul says here that we are responsible to work out our own salvation, yet God is the one who is working in us to do that. Paul doesn't explain how both can be true at the same time. He simply states both and expects us to believe and act on both. And Paul himself expressed this practically in his own life. We see in Acts 9 that Paul knew the great ways that God was going to use him in the future, and yet, when the Jews were planning to kill him, Paul did all he could to escape from them, going out in a basket through an opening in the wall around Damascus. He knew that he was responsible for his actions, and so he acted. He took responsibility. Yet, All the while, his heart was at perfect peace, knowing that God was with him and would deliver him and would do the great things that he had promised that he would do for Paul. Paul believed and lived according to both truths. He embraced both treasures. To believe both is liberating and profoundly empowering. We do not have to choose. In fact, we must not choose. When we choose, we fall into a ditch. We make errors when we choose one or the other. We also should not try to connect the two truths together in some way as if everything is partly the sovereignty of God and partly the responsibility of man. God repeatedly and fully teaches both, and he expects us to fully believe both without being able to understand how they both can be true at the same time. The reality is there are many things we can't understand. We are created beings, and our minds are very limited in capacity. How could we ever fully comprehend the ways and purposes of our Creator? We believe both truths simply because the Bible teaches both. God understands how both can be true at the same time. And that should be enough for us. And the practical benefits of believing both truths are immense, as we will see. When we stop trying to reconcile both truths, we receive great treasure. God has come to us with two beautiful gifts, the sovereignty of God and the responsibility of man. But many of us have been content to only receive one or the other. What a loss that is. Others have taken half of one gift and half of the other and tried to meld them together in a strange new form. But that simply doesn't work. We need to receive both gifts from God in their entirety. Then we will rest in the sovereignty of God while running hard with endurance the race that's set before us. And then the doctrine that has been such a source of confusion and division in the church will be a tremendous source of life, strength, blessing, and hope to all of us. If we simply believe what the Scriptures teach and gratefully receive both treasures without relying on our own understanding and attempting to reconcile the two positions, this truth will not divide us anymore, but rather it will unite and empower us.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe to our channel for more teaching videos like this. For more information about LeaderSource, please visit our website, www.leadersource.org.